Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. This, I guess it's called Leap Year Thursday. I don't know if it's got a name. February the 29th. Glad to have you here. If you will, like, share, and or comment on the post. And then, if you will, join me in the 21st chapter and the 27th verse. And we see how quickly things go downhill for Paul. Verse 27, when the 7 days were almost completed, the Jews from Asia, seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd and laid hands on him, crying out, "Men of Israel, help! This is the man who is teaching everyone everywhere against the people and the law and this place. Moreover, he even brought Greeks into the temple and has defiled this holy place." For they previously had seen Trophimus the Ephesian with him in the city, and they supposed that Paul had brought him into the temple. And then all the city was stirred up, and the people ran together. They seized Paul, dragged him out of the temple, and at once the gates were shut. So, the prophecies of Paul's friends have quickly come to pass, as we have a group of troublemakers, Jews from Asia, who are lying, basically. Just no other way to put it. And they weren't from Jerusalem. They were Asian Jews, so they were in Jerusalem attending the Feast of Pentecost, and they see Paul. And evidently the process that they had went through had shown the Christian believers that Paul wasn't teaching against the law of Moses, but the Jewish believers the Asian Jews were unhappy, and so they grab Paul and they drag him out, and they level 3 charges against him. He, first of all, is accused of telling everyone everywhere, which I think right off the bat we know is not even likely or possible, that Paul was trying to turn the world against the Jews. Again, Paul had just said that being a Jew wouldn't save you. He wasn't trying to turn anybody against him. Again, he was a Jew himself. And so they were insulted by that. That he had, second charge was that he had taught against the law of Moses, and told people that taught that the customs and the laws, the traditions of the old law was not binding. And Paul had said that the law was not binding on Gentiles, not for salvation. And then finally, that he had defiled the temple, that he had brought Trophimus the Greek into the temple, and again doesn't seem to be true, but Paul I think they just assumed, because they had seen Paul earlier with Trophimus, that he had brought him into the temple. And Paul would have never done that. Again, we don't have any evidence that he did, but Paul knew the law, and he knew that if he did that, he would be mud, so to speak. And so he would have never done such a thing. And as we look at that, you may say, well, what is the meaning for us today? And granted, it is, again, this is kind of strictly a Jewish issue that is being described here, but what we see is something that carries into other cultures, and that is that the Jews were more concerned with their rituals, with their customs, with their traditions, than they were with actually even their own relationship with God. And they were more concerned about again, following every little tradition that had been passed down. Again, they had put in rules about how far a person could walk, whether or not you could sew up your socks if they were torn. I mean, they had added all kinds of rules. And if you've ever read the Old Testament, if you've ever read the book of Leviticus, you know there's plenty of law there to start with. And they had added at least that much law on top of what God had given. And they were more worried about those things than they actually were their relationship with God. Again, we see that in their actions to crucify Christ. They were more concerned about their rituals than they were doing what was right. They were concerned about. They were accusing Christ of violating the law that they violated every day. They went against it every day. Even the priests, the religious leaders, weren't following the law, but they wanted to crucify Jesus and accuse him of violating the law. And that is that is a struggle that the church has fought for 2,000 years now. That we often get caught up in tradition and ritual more than being obedient to the Word of God. And again, some traditions, some rituals, some things we have always done are good, and we probably should keep always doing them. But again, they're not God's word. They're not the law of God. And that they are just rituals, and we need to understand and remember the difference. Many churches have been destroyed because of people demanding that certain traditions and rituals from 100 years ago continue to be followed. One of the biggest that is still an issue, two really, that are big issues in the church still today are Bible translation, which translation of the Bible we're going to use, and musical style. Many churches have been destroyed fighting over musical style. And I guess everybody has a preference of what kind of music they like and don't like, but for the sake of the church, I think we learned that that's not a primary issue. Again, as long as the words of the song, as long as the doctrine that's being taught is correct, you may not like the beat, you may not like the music, whatever, but we have to be careful that we don't put tradition ahead and preference ahead of the Word of God. And that's a challenge, again, that churches still today. It wasn't just the Jews in the temple, but the church down the street from you, your church. Every church I know of, to some extent, deals with that and wrestles with this issue of tradition and preference over the Word of God. You think about it. Watch for it. Be careful of it. Don't allow tradition to get in the way of you doing and following the Word of God. Have a good one. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.